This is Cult Film Face Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face Off, episode 24. With me, as always, the half-pipe king, Chet Roivas.
Gnarly.
And me, Nick Kickflip Leonard. This episode, we'll be discussing two skate films from the 1980s. First up, we have David Winter's 1986 offering, Thrashin. Corey Webster and his skating crew, the Ramp Locals, clash with Venice Beach tough punk rock skater gang, the Daggers. This rivalry culminates in the boys taking their beef to the LA Massacre, a deadly skate race down an unforgiving canyon road. Thrashin.
Corey Webster is taking off for LA. He lives to thrash. He loves to compete. But the competition is a killer.
Check it out, it's Hook and the Daggers.
You're gonna be the most beautiful girl at the club.
The music of the Bangles, Animotion, Devo, Meatloaf, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Thrashin.
It's just the game, right, Valley Boy? You like games, right, Valley Boy?
An uphill romance
Corey, please don't go.
to a downhill race. Thrashin', it's not a kid's game anymore.
Okay, right. So, Thrashin. Have you seen it?
I had never seen it before. I had never heard of it. First time I'd ever heard of it. What about you?
I've never seen it, never heard of it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, this film is basically, it's so unbelievably 80s, and because it's so 80s and it panders so specifically to a specific demographic, it feels like a canon film, but it's way better made than any of those movies. If you look at it, a screenshot from it, you think it's like Electric Boogaloo, but it's actually a much better. It's a better film than any of those canon films that it reminded me of. Did you enjoy it?
I mean, first of all, you can't talk about this film and Electric Boogaloo in the same sentence. I mean, Electric Boogaloo is a colourful film where you actually care about the characters. And God, more so than the vapid bunch of fucking dweebs on screen in Thrashin'. I mean, these guys were just kind of, they were so stock characters and so shallow and I mean, this film is just full of elements you'd expect a studio executive who just wants to kind of basically make a bit of dough off the back of a sort of subculture and a craze. I mean, the opening scene, you've got Josh Brolin being a complete showdown. I mean, a complete dick, to be honest. He's like jumping into the back of some dudes. He's like, he jumps into the back of a truck. He skates between two girls. He holds onto some dude's motorbike, and everyone just smiles at him like gawkishly, like, "Hey, that's all right." I mean, when would that ever happen? Ever? Yeah. Following on from that, more things. I think this is a really bad film.
Oh, okay.
That they made a full-size skate ramp in a matter of minutes. And it's like, there's so many times in this film, I was just there going, they're just overemphasizing everything to make, this is a really dangerous sport. It really, over-egging stuff. Like, when you're first introduced to these tough guys on skateboards, right, they're about as tough and as convincing as Peter Dinklage playing the BFG. I mean, there is no menace to these skateboarders at all. I mean, the guy couldn't have looked the leader of the Daggers couldn't have looked any more camp. Tommy Hook couldn't have looked.
That bit with the ramp was quite something. The fact that in an afternoon they built this amazing skate ramp. If that was really the case, when it gets burned down later in the film, you just be like, we'll just build another one. You just
exactly. It took 5 minutes to knock it up. And later on in the film, when they take poor Bozo. They take his car and they basically chop the roof off. Well, once again, in a matter of 5 minutes, they've chopped half of the car off and they're riding around in it. Yeah, I mean, the skating in this, there's some moments where there's obviously some professional skaters wearing some really funny wigs who are meant to be portraying members of Josh Brolin's gang. But it all felt really staged. And the choreographing of the skating looked more like pre-rehearsed dance numbers as opposed to kind of skating freestyle through a derelict warehouse, which is exactly a scene that happens in Gleaming the Cube that's done so well. Is that it's really visceral, and you're like, shit, that's really skillful skating. There's loads of shots with the actual, the cameras down on the sort of the POV of the skateboard itself. With this, the skating just seemed really super staged.
Yeah, the choreography is not great. I mean, there are scenes, I think, that are actually photographed quite nicely, particularly the nighttime skateboard chase. But the choreography is pretty awful. It's particularly, the big, supposedly dramatic jousting scene towards the end.
God, no,
where they joust
what the fuck?
with bean bags or something, very slowly.
They basically have very light, small, plumped-up cushions on chains.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no element of danger in that fucking shit. This is the whole thing, is that it's trying to take itself seriously as things are dangerous. They're over-egging stuff. Like when there's the scene where Josh Brolin, Corey Webster, he's injured on the half. Is it a half pipe that he's skating on, or is it an empty swimming pool?
I think it's the swimming pool tournament or whatever.
Yeah, the swimming pool tournament. And you've got this commentator on the PA going, God, these kids are crazy, and it looks dangerous. Yeah. This vertical skating is risky business. This kid is in pain. I mean, shut the fuck up. You don't need this to add. You don't need this to add the fucking drama.
I wrote all of that stuff down because I was going to ask if you had a favourite scene, but that absurdly literal, inane fucking commentator.
I love the fact that he just becomes the narrator of the film. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's just the whole thing. It just came as it's really try hard, really over the top, and really fake. Everything about it was kind of knockoff feel. I mean, the story itself is just like a really shit West Side Story knockoff. The love scene. I mean, I didn't buy into the relationship for 2 seconds, and that actually was one of my favourite scenes, because I just could not believe how unsexual and how unromantic that the sex scene was between Josh Brolin and Chrissy.
My favourite part of that love scene was, for a moment, I thought whoever did the commentating on the in that scene we were just talking about, who was absurdly literal. I think he wrote the lyrics to the song that's playing while they're making out. At the beginning of the song, I think one of them's like, 2 people from 2 very different backgrounds.
No, I think we should really chop some of that song into this podcast, because I was just there going, it's like it's a pastiche. It's like you could see that in a Hot Shots film.
Yeah, right.
Look at us. Ain't it funny? Is it just beginner's luck? Well, maybe with just a touch. 2 different people from such different worlds apart have touched each other's heart. Like candles in the dark. If it's time for
Did you see the greatest reaction shot of all time?
Oh, go on.
It's at the very beginning, where one of the bad guys' crew jumps off his skateboard, kicks the side of a van, and then somehow lands back on his skateboard, which is stationary. Yeah. And the driver of that van's reaction, I mean, that's why film exists, to capture moments like that. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, interesting to spot a very young, youthful Sherilyn Fenn, who played Audrey in Twin Peaks, crop up as Velvet. And also to see a very young Red Hot Chili Peppers with Anthony Kiedis resembling a really young Iggy Pop.
Yeah, but that was completely out. I wasn't expecting that. It was, and the song they play is not a good song. It's kind of like a funk version of a thrash song.
It does not sound like a Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Well, it's better than anything they've recorded since '91. You can take that to the bank, boy.
I don't know about that. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. What year was that?
91. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's the fucking real deal. That is that album.
No doubt.
Oh yeah. So what I liked is the end ramp the end ramp, which is known as the Widowmaker, he literally glides no more than 3 foot off the ground.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the soundtrack was very subpar 80s fare. Yeah, I thought it was a really bad film.
There are things that you said that I definitely agree with. I mean, about characterisation. You wouldn't necessarily expect characterisation in a film like this, but it does that thing that 80s kids' films always used to do, where everybody's a moron. Rather than work to make the good guys endearing or easy to root for, I mean, James Brolin's crew, they're just fucking mongoloids. They're all like the Ralph Wiggum from the Simpsons.
Well, no, I mean, literally, they're verging on all being educationally subnormal. I mean, they're so stupid.
Yeah, they are properly thick, and I found them hard to root for. What do you know about wide skateboards? Because they all use those wide skateboards, and when I was a kid and I had a skateboard, that was viewed as being like for beginners. So all of these. Oh yeah,
you used to have like svelty kind of Santa Cruz was the one to have, wasn't it? I mean, I was pitifully bad at skateboarding. I think I could barely ollie 2 inches.
But isn't it? I mean, it seems strange that these sort of hardcore skaters were using these big wide boards that I thought was supposed to indicate that you weren't very good at it.
Well, I suppose they could lie down on them and goof off. There seems to be quite a few scenes lying down on their boards. They wouldn't be able to lie down on like a svelty like Santa Cruz cool board. So maybe it was kind of done as a device to put more dancey like numbers in rather than actual like proper skating.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that's a huge blunder, because if you were a skater and you went to see this film, you'd be like, not buying this. They're all using those beginner whiteboards. This film is completely montage-tastic. I mean, if you don't like montage, I reckon 60% of this is montages.
If 60% of it is montages, then the other 40% is shots of chucks.
Chucks.
Yeah, the boot. The amount of close-ups on chucks that people are wearing in this film. Copious amounts of the shots of the shoes they're wearing.
Oh, right.
You know chucks?
No.
The chucks, they're the Converse chucks.
Oh, right. Okay, no, I didn't. I've never heard that before.
I mean, I've never seen so many shots of chucks.
I'll look out for those when I'm editing a video for this episode. I mean, aside from the fact that I don't know who it's aimed at, because...
Or skaters.
Yeah, but it's not really. It's the kind of thing that looks like an adult film to very young kids, and it looks like a kids' film to teenagers, and adults just like, I'm not even interested. So I think they kind of priced themselves out of every market. I don't know who this is for, but it's never really confused about what it is, and it feels completely. I don't know why. It felt uncynical to me, largely because.
I felt completely cynical to me. It felt like 50-plus-year-old studio execs trying to go, let's get into this skating craze and make a movie about it. I mean, it was just really poorly patched together. I just really felt it was kind of like that they just kind of threw it together. Put a load of skating sequences on there. Nothing. It felt just comparing this to like Gleaming the Cube. You've got like Gleaming the Cube. Christian Slater, his friend, has this kind of really cool kind of underground sort of den. Which you look at it and just go, yeah, I completely believe that guy is in that den working on skateboards with his hammock there and all his kind of workbench. And you look at that compared to like. The convoluted the house where the other skaters they live. They live in this huge house which they've customised to have ramps on the outside of it, and all they do is they hang around being a badass skater punk group skating skating around on their house. It's just like this was just kind of the ramp being thrown up in 5 minutes. It just all felt really polished. All of these skaters were really polished.
I don't know. I think the kid who's got his bedroom in like basically a retooled like old bomb shelter, which I'll talk about again when we talk about Cleaning the Cube. That's more of a Hollywood fantasy than I think, because these young guys all just getting drunk in this house. That's how all the 80s hair rock bands were formed in that environment.
Who's paying rent on that house?
I did wonder that. I did wonder what they did for jobs.
At least the other kids are living realistically. They're all like 15, 16, they're living at home with their parents. Yeah. Hence why he's got his... these kids are in a 5-bedroom fucking mansion that's made to look run down and dilapidated, but it's so filmic.
I don't know, it's just... It started, it's like, this is going to be this kind of film. It's going to be a sort of... a romance that's going to... it's going to be a remake of fucking Romeo and Juliet, and then there's going to be loads of skating.
It's a subpar Romeo and Juliet West Side Story. You don't believe in any of the relationships. shift. I didn't feel for any moment that Josh Brolin or his crew were in any kind of danger from the alleged.
You weren't worried that he was going to take them up on that hill and whack them with a beanbag on the end of the pole?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is not a good film. It passed the time by and it never made me angry.
Yeah.
I fully admit, if I didn't grow up in the 1980s, I might really not have any more. I mean, maybe that's it. I just was kind of like, this is okay.
This film offers up nothing apart from a pure nostalgic element of it being so 80s.
It is unbelievably 80s, and I think the fact that it's a montage movie is testament to that. I mean, I thought the chase, like I said, at night time was actually pretty well done. Although there's a stunt in that. The worst stunt I've ever seen in a film, or one of, where a skater goes into the side of a van in slow motion, and it's nobody was harmed, nobody was injured in the making of that.
This is the thing; they're really trying. They're trying so hard to make it look dangerous and dramatic, and just everything fell really flat, and it was a real tedious 90 minutes.
I wouldn't recommend anyone goes and sees this film, but maybe I was just in a good mood when I watched it. I just thought this is all right. If I was a kid, I'd have enjoyed it.
I mean, I'm not. The thing is, I watched Gleaming the Cube before this, and this was just like this just pales in comparison in every area. I mean, what sums up this film for me is Josh Brolin playing air guitar with his skateboard in a club. I mean, surely that's a cardinal sin in the skating community.
I love the fact that they all go to this nightclub and they've all got their boards with them. It's like leave it at home.
It's a skaters' nightclub. I mean, it's just rubbish. Yeah. It's created for the purposes of a film. There's nothing realistic about it. They're all there, and on the dance floor, they're just doing tricks on their skateboards.
It's fucking silly. But this is a kids' film that seems to think that it's aiming slightly higher than that. But it's so stupid, and it's. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like this film, but I just didn't mind it.
Any shit lookalikes?
Shit lookalikes, probably, but I didn't spot them. There's always shit.
I've got a doozy. I don't actually think this is a shit lookalike. I think this is an actual doppelganger. So when Josh Brolin is being tended to after his fall, where the daggers put the ball bearings into the swimming pool in the first tournament, he's being tended to by somebody who would go on to direct great things like Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, Spike Lee.
No way.
Spike Lee is tending to Josh Brolin.
I'm gonna have to dig that out. I'm gonna as soon as we finish recording this, I'm gonna go and have a look at that.
Sweet. Right. Okay. Cool. Well, look. I mean, I've got nothing more to say about this movie.
Me neither. Me neither. I liked it more than you, but so what?
Terrible shit. So, Gleaming the Cube. Brian Kelly's adopted brother is found dead. To the police, it looks like a routine suicide, but Brian suspects foul play. This leads Brian into a web of lies, gun running, and of course, plenty of skating. Gleaming the Cube.
Christian Slater of Tucker and Heathers stars with Stephen Bauer from FIFA Parts and Richard Hurd of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in Gleaming the Cube. Brian Kelly didn't care for the way adults ran things.
Adults are predictable. They're living under this illusion that life as we know it is going to continue forever.
And he didn't care for the direction the world was heading.
I don't know what's worse, blown up in nuclear war or having a 7-Eleven on every corner.
In fact, there were only two things that Brian did care for. His skateboard and his brother.
Trump, what? You got a B+ in calculus.
Then one day, his brother died.
This was an accident.
And Brian's skateboard became his weapon in a deadly game of international smuggling, murder, and revenge.
No one knows anything except a kid on a skateboard. You killed my brother. You're not listening to me. You're the one who's not listening.
When getting even means risking it all. Gleaming the Cube.
Right. So, Gleaming the Cube. I mean, I know you've seen it. I haven't seen it. When was the last time you saw it?
Many years ago. I mean, I reckon I probably saw it 20 times when it came out when I was a kid. I probably haven't seen it in
20 times. So, how did it stand up today?
It's quite a complicated one, actually. When I got to the end of this film, I realised that I reckon I've seen the first half 20 times and the film in its entirety maybe 3 times, because the first half is way, way better than the second half. The first thing that I thought was interesting is that when you look at Josh Brolin and Christian Slater in these 2 films, Josh Brolin is unbelievably vacant and bland, and he looks like somebody who has no future. If you were watching that in '83 or whenever the film came out, you'd be like, no chance.
Oh, I'd have written him off as Driftwood.
Yeah, and Christian Slater has all the charisma in the world and looks like he's going to be a really distinctive and unusual movie star, and now Josh Brolin is that, and Christian Slater's still got a great career, but it's just interesting how they've gone almost completely different paths.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he kind of had his... I mean, he was a massive in the 80s, Slater, but then has kind of faded off into a bit of obscurity. But he's in Mr. Robot, isn't he? He's quite a prominent character in Mr. Robot. But no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, you look at him and go, this is a star in the making.
Yeah. When I started the film and the theme song came on, I was like, wow, this is actually... I still remember how it went. I was like, this is actually a really good theme song. A really good 80s pop song. Whereas the 80s music in... Thrashin was just 80s music that you
and bad 80s music.
Yeah, bad 80s. This is actually quite. I thought this was quite a decent theme song. The first actual footage you see of Christian Slater on a skateboard is not him. And they seem to be brazenly... They don't care that the stunt people that are doing most of the skating. The thing about the beginning of Thrashin, where Josh Brolin was going around being obnoxious, you can actually see that he can skate to a certain level. He was actually doing some stuff, but Christian Slater clearly can't do anything that isn't going in a straight line. So the first time you see his character on that airfield skating around, you're like, that's not... It doesn't even look like him. It's a terrible...
Yeah, that's right. A lot of the skating scenes are done at night time. A lot of the real technical stuff. I think Rodney Mullen did like the sequence in the film, which I think one of the best sequences, when he's in the kind of the derelict, disused factory.
Yeah.
I mean, the skating set pieces were just so much better than in Thrashin. You've got the skateboarding through the window towards the end. You've got this skateboarding under a truck. I mean, these actually look like genuinely gripping stunts. There was no genuinely gripping stunts in Thrashin.
I didn't think that the final downhill race in Thrashin was that bad. But yeah, I think it's the choreography is worlds apart in this. It's way better.
I mean, you've got a sequence that is mirrored basically. You've got like the end sequence of Thrashin when they're doing the downhill, and you've got it done way better in Gleaming the Cube when Christian Slater is basically trying to evade three sort of gang members on motorbikes. Mm. It was just done way, like, you think they could be in danger. Whereas kind of like in Thrashin, it would cut away and suddenly some guy would be like, oh, I'm just very gently falling down a bush.
Yeah, that was Thrashin to a T. This is much more of a fantasy overtly than Thrashin, just because, I mean, one of the opening scenes is these kids, apparently broke kids, bribing this guy to fly them over Los Angeles in a private plane so that they can seek out empty swimming pools. But I think that would have
been great to watch as a kid.
No, that's what I mean. That's why I appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. For the first half, I was like, this is a legitimately well-made film. The script by Michael Tolkien, who's still best known for doing The Player, it's worlds away from Thrashin. The dialogue and the plotting just have that really reassuring snap to them. And it's clearly the work of somebody who's quite seasoned and knows what they're doing. It's still a kid's film, but it doesn't have a great deal of bullshit in it.
I think it's a kid's film, but it's not dumbed down like Thrashin.
No, I agree. I mean, see, the more I think about Thrashin, the more it did seem more targeted and much more cynical than it felt when I was watching it. But the story, this is how I felt in the first half. The story moves, everything's got a bit of pep to it, and then halfway through, the film just kind of stops dead. And there's loads of scenes of Slater moping around, and he's not doing the detective work that's supposed to be happening. It just feels like the second half is about distracting you and treading water to try and avoid getting to the finale, because you could get to the finale from the halfway point almost, but there's a lot of moping, and I just kind of lost a little bit of patience with it, because I thought the beginning was actually really, really quite strong.
I think the first half an hour zips by at a really nice pace. Yeah, I mean, Christian Slater just elevates all of this, elevates proceedings, because there's some really bloody wooden acting elsewhere on the screen. I mean, Steve Bauer as the lieutenant, I mean, he just honks up the screen every scene that he's in.
You reckon? I thought he was okay. He doesn't really. He plays that character a lot. That sort of underachieving wisecracking. I think it's great.
I don't know. He's the same in Scarface. He's just really over the top. All the skateboarding scenes here are done really well. And there's really very good technique on show. But yeah, I mean, the second half of the film, there's just kind of long, dragged out sequences without skateboarding. You know, there's Christian Slater visiting the grave. It just goes into a bit of a neutral gear up until the last 10 minutes where it picks up the pace again. So, yeah, it's a shame that it didn't... the first half an hour, I was really engaged with it.
I do think... when I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is as good as I remember it, because I loved it when I was a kid. I was like, this is legitimately good. But as it got towards the end, I was like, I don't even think I've seen the end. I must have just turned it off like 15 out of 20 times, because it does really peter out. With regards to how it's made, I think there are some really nice little touches that just made it more memorable and more interesting. I like the fact that central murder, when his stepbrother's strangled, happens off camera. The way it cuts away, he's alive, and then they step outside, and then they step in, and he's gone. It's just had a bit of punch to it. I remember it. I also liked there was a a struggle, I should say, that's seen almost entirely through a car's rearview mirror.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a tiny moment where Tony Hawk's in bed and he's being summoned, by his gang for the final set piece, and he looks like he's falling back asleep. And then after about 2 seconds, he just leaps up. It's tiny little pieces of invention that sort of kept me involved a little bit. The kind of thing you wouldn't see in something like Thrashin.
I just like the whole camaraderie. I believe that, I just believed in Slater being that cool character, and the bit where he has to change his appearance and the reaction he gets from people at the school. I thought that was done quite genuinely, how, like, one obviously the coolest, like, rebellious skater kids was doing that. I thought that was done well. And how uncomfortable, how he was trying to pull that off. I think it's just testament to Christian Slater's acting, is that just it was all wholly believable. Yeah, in every kind of way, this was a much better film than Thrashin. Well crafted, action sequences. I like the penultimate ending when all the crew come to help him in the Pizza Hut van and everything, and it really built to a nice conclusion.
I think it's inarguably a better film than Thrashin. At the end, it kind of goes from being a very mild fantasy to being extravagantly daft. Part of Christian Slater's plan is to crash through the window you mentioned, at the exact right moment, but the whole climax hinges on that bit. It also hinges on Lieutenant Al Lucero just coming into the room precisely after that had all happened. Yeah, it's very silly.
It's daft, but it's kind of like it is kind of aimed at kids, and it is kind of it's just one of those kind of over the top kind of set piece endings.
Yeah. I basically don't disagree with that. One thing made me curious about this. There are some pretty impressive stunts in this. Particularly,
genuinely good stunts.
And I was thinking, who are the best people to do those stunts? Is it someone like Tony Hawk? He's amazing on a skateboard. Would they ever? But he's not a stuntman.
Or do you get a stuntman
to learn
I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'm not too sure, because the professional skaters in there was Tommy Guerrero, Tony Hawk, and Rodney Mullen were the three professional skaters in it. But I'm not sure. That's interesting. I can't imagine you can just train a stunt guy to look decent on a
This is what I mean. It's the whole Armageddon thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, it'd be so much better to train astronauts to drill rather than the other way around." I don't know whether, if you're trying to get someone to do an incredibly complex thing on a skateboard, wouldn't you say to one of the skaters, "Do you want to risk?" I suppose that I don't know. Stuntmen, would have to learn how to skate. Yeah,
that takes fucking time. You can't just kind of spend a week skating. It takes bloody ages to get decent on a deck, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a mystery. This triggered this film when I was a kid. It triggered my second biggest single obsession. The first was the hoverboards in Back to the Future 2, because a friend of mine had a tie-in annual, Back to the Future 2, the tie-in book, the annual or whatever. And in it, Robert Zemeckis, I think it was, said in an interview, hoverboards have been around for ages. They just won't get past health and safety. They've been real for years. And when I read that as a kid, I was like, there's got to be a way to get one. So I was obsessed with that for a little while. I don't know whether that was cool of them to do that, or whether it was just fucking dog shit. Because it's kind of giving full throat.
Well, it's promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know. But anyway, I was obsessed with getting a hoverboard. And then after I saw this, and I saw that kid had his bedroom in the garden
But then you just wanted your bedroom with a garden.
Yeah, I went to my parents. I was like, "I'll dig the hole. You do the rest. It's definitely feasible." Because how cool is that? He's got a little ramp down there, and
it's what every kid wants.
Completely separate
at the end of the garden, which has got a really cool cover that you unfucking like it's going to a fucking submarine.
Yeah, I wanted that. I still want that bedroom, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd watched this in the 80s, I think my obsession would have been with having blonde ice tips, which I rocked in the 90s.
I can see that.
You saw it.
I can see it when I younger you as well.
Right, okay, so I suppose we have to declare a winner here, and I'm not too sure which way the pendulum's going to swing on this one.
Well, I will just say, I honestly don't know whether it was because I was just having a good day, but I didn't hate Thrashin, but it's not. There's so much wrong with Gleaming the Cube, but it's better than Thrashin. I'll say that.
My God, Thrashin is an empty vessel. Gleaming the Cube all the way.
All right.
Right. Okay, that wraps up another episode. Thank you very much for listening. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter. All of our podcasts are made into video versions, which are put on our YouTube channel. Check it out.
Thanks for listening. See you later.
Ciao then.